Oh, that
Holy
was
fuck, that was nice.
now I'm gonna delete Garrison's dudes. So on the subject of doxing him,
God damn.
What? No? What? Sorry?
Perfect. Hey, it's his episode. This is the perfect way to start it.
Yeah.
All right, Dennis, shall we start this then?
Yes.
Yeah, what are we doing today?
I have no clue. But on that note, welcome to the Micro Machines podcast. This week we will be discussing Operation Overlord. But first, shall we do some introductions?
We shall.
We shall. So you've got up first, me, Callum, from New Zealand, and I've just ripped open a nice can of, this is a Stoke handcrafted lager, mid-strength. It's only 2.5% because I'm trying to cut back on alcohol.
Week.
No, but I've done things to my body that can't repair, so yeah.
Fair
Who's
enough.
next?
Well, you've got me, Garrison, out here in Kansas. No tornado in sight yet. I'm drinking a freshly brewed pot of coffee, and I'll be your host tonight.
Nice. Got me, Jack, Ontario. Shit, I forgot a drink.
You fucking
Guess I'm not drinking anything tonight.
rainwater, you fucking peasant.
You got me, Dennis, also in Ontario. Also forgot a drink, so that'll be my job during the intermission.
Rain fodder.
And then there's me, Ezra, in New Mexico with a bottle of Blue Raspberry Prime.
Because
Ooh.
you get no rainwater.
Yeah, I just live
Gotta
on
make
Prime.
your own rainwater.
So isn't Prime that new energy drink?
Yes.
No, this is Prime Hydration, not the Prime Energy. One comes in a can, one comes in a bottle.
One's more hydrating than the other.
Yes.
Alrighty. Well, this week, Garrison, it is your show. So why don't you take us off here, buddy?
All right. Today we're going to be going over Operation Overlord, which was the Allied invasion and campaign of Normandy, France, against the Axis powers from June 6th to August 30th, 1944. It goes right along with our.
But that's not a machine.
It's not micro either.
This guy. It has multiple machines that are micro.
Multiple.
Name all of them.
All of them. First slide here, it's going to be the overview. So Operation Overlord was the code name for the Battle of Normandy, which was the Allied operation that launched the successful invasion of German-occupied Western Europe during World War II. The operation was launched on 6 June 1944, which was codenamed D-Day, with the Normandy landings, Operation Neptune. A 1,200 plane airborne assault preceded an amphibious assault involving more than 5,000 vessels. Nearly 160,000 troops crossed the English Channel on 6 June, and more than 2 million Allied troops were in France by the end of August of 44. And on the right there, got a nice pretty map showing the D-Day assault routes into Normandy. Now, I just want to give a heads up. The first few slides is going to be just about the preparation and D-Day itself, since there was so much that went into this huge invasion. But next slide, we got the Allied invasion plan. Overlord was the name assigned to the establishment of a large-scale spearhead into Europe. The first phase, which was an amphibious landing and establishment of a secure foothold, was codenamed Operation Neptune and is often referred to as D-Day. To gain the required air superiority needed to ensure a successful invasion, the Allies launched a strategic bombing campaign, codenamed Point Blank, to target German aircraft production, fuel supplies, and airfields. Under the transport plan, communication infrastructure, road and rail links were bombed to cut off the north of France and to make it more difficult to bring up reinforcements. These attacks were widespread so to avoid revealing the exact location of the invasion. Elaborate deceptions were planned to prevent the Germans from determining the timing and location of the invasion. And on the right there, you've got the LSTs with barrage balloons deployed, unloading supplies on Omaha Beach for the breakout from. Next, more about the Allied invasion plan. The coastline of Normandy was divided into 7 sectors with codenames using a spelling alphabet from Able west of Omaha to Roger on the east flanks of Sword. 8 further sectors were added when the invasion was extended to include Utah on the, I'm going to butcher this, Cotentin Peninsula. Sectors were further subdivided into beaches identified by the colors green, red, and white. Allied planners contemplated proceeding the seaborne landings with airborne troops near Caen on the eastern flank to secure the Orne, I believe that's how you say that, river bridges, and north of Carentan on the western flank. The initial goal was to capture Carentan, fucking Izagini, I don't know how to say that, Bayeux, and Caen. The Americans assigned to land at Utah and Omaha were to cut off the Cotentin Peninsula and capture the port facilities at Cherbourg. The British at Sword and Gold and the Canadians at Juno were to capture Caen and form a front line from Camont de Evinte to the southeast of Caen in order to protect the American flank while establishing airfields near Caen. Possession of Caen and its surroundings would give the Anglo-Canadian forces a suitable staging area for a push south to capture the town of Falaise. A secure lodgment would be established and an attempt made to hold all territory captured north of the Avranches Falaise line during the first 3 weeks. The Allied armies would then swing left to advance towards the River Seine. And then on the right there, you've got the air plan for the Allied landings in Normandy.
My dog's name is Juno. He's a good boy.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Was he named after the beachhead?
Something
yes,
like
yes,
that.
he was named after the beach. In fact, don't deny that.
It would be a coincidence, wouldn't it?
Mm.
Mm.
He's a really good boy.
Oh, I bet.
Mhm.
Well, more about the Allied invasion plan. The invasion fleet, led by Admiral Sir Bertram Ramsay, which was probably Gordon Ramsay's grandfather, was split into the Western Naval Task Force under Admiral Alan G. Kirk, supporting the American sectors, and the Eastern Naval Task Force under Admiral Sir Philip Vane, and the British and Canadian sectors. The American forces of the First Army, led by Lieutenant General Omar Bradley, comprised 7th Corps Utah, 5th Corps Omaha. On the British side, Lieutenant General Miles Dempsey commanded the 2nd Army, under which 30 Corps was assigned to Gold, and 1st Corps was to Juno and Sword. Land forces were under the overall command of Montgomery, and Air Command was assigned to Air Chief Marshal Sir Trafford Leigh Mallory. The 1st Canadian Army launched personnel and units from Poland, Belgium, and the Netherlands. Other Allied nations also participated. And then on the right there, you got Supreme Commander Dwight D. Eisenhower and the Allied Expeditionary Force and his staff. All right, now we start getting into the juicy stuff. Reconnaissance. They're on the right-hand side. Get a nice Allied recon plane over Normandy. The Allied Expeditionary Air Force undertook over 3,200 photo reconnaissance sorties from April 1944 until the start of the invasion. Let's see, April to May, like barely a month, 1 month to 2 months, depending on when they started out in April. That is a lot of fucking sorties.
That is a close margin they're running down.
That's I didn't realize he said that many fucking planes out. Jesus Christ.
He really went to the 11th hour.
No kidding. Oh man, photos of the coastlines were taken at extremely low altitude to show the invaders the terrain, obstacles on the beach, and defensive structures such as bunkers and machine gun emplacements. To avoid alerting the Germans as to the location of the invasion, this work had to be undertaken over the entire European coastline. Inland terrain, bridges, troop emplacements, and buildings were also photographed, in many cases from several angles, to give the Allies as much information as possible. Members of the combined operations pilotage parties clandestinely prepared detailed harbor maps, including depth sounding. More about recon. Training exercises for the Operation Overlord landings took place as early as July 1943, as the nearby beach resembled the planned Normandy landing site. The town of Slapton in Devon was evacuated in December of 1943 and taken over by the armed forces as a site for training exercises. That included the use of landing craft and the management of beach obstacles. A friendly fire incident there on 27th of April 1944 resulted in as many as 450 deaths. The following day, an additional estimate of 749 American soldiers and sailors died when German torpedo boats surprised members of Assault Force U conducting Exercise Tiger. Exercises with landing craft and live ammunition also took place at the Combined Training Center in Inverary, I don't know how the fuck to say that, in Scotland. Naval exercises took place in Northern Ireland, and medical teams in London and elsewhere rehearsed how they would handle the expected waves of casualties. Paratroopers conducted exercises, including a huge demonstration drop on 23rd March 1944, observed by Churchill, Eisenhower, and other top officials. And there on the right is a training exercise with live ammunition for the build-up to D-Day.
So that town is Inverary in Scotland. Oh, I know that because I've been there. It's a cool little town.
Really?
Yeah, they got the historical jail and everything there. It's a very idyllic. It's
Yeah,
not
Callum, how are the pubs?
pretty damn good.
Yeah, as befits a town with such historical significance.
Oh yeah, it's old school.
Moving on. Here on the right side, you got diagram showing the weather on June 5th, 1944. So we're going to be going over weather forecasting. The invasion planners specified a set of conditions regarding the timing of the invasion, deeming only a few days in each month suitable. A full moon was desirable, as it would provide illumination for aircraft pilots and have the highest tides. The Allies wanted to schedule the landings for shortly before dawn, midway between low and high tide, with the tide coming in. This would improve the visibility of obstacles the enemy had placed on the beach, while minimizing the amount of time the men had to spend exposed in the open. Specific criteria were also set for wind speed, visibility, and cloud coverage. Eisenhower had tentatively selected 5 or 5th June as the date for the assault. However, on June 4th, conditions were clearly unsuitable for a landing. High winds and heavy seas made it impossible to launch landing craft, and low clouds would prevent aircraft from finding their targets. More about weather forecasting. On the right-hand side, you got a photograph showing landing craft headed towards Normandy with choppy waves. By the evening of June 4th, the Allied meteorological, goddamn, I can't fucking speak tonight, predicted that the weather would improve sufficiently, so the invasion could go ahead on June 6th. He met Eisenhower and other senior commanders at their headquarters to discuss the situation. General Montgomery and Major General Walter Bedell Smith were eager to launch the invasion. Admiral Ramsey was prepared to commit his ships, while Air Chief Marshal Tafford expressed concern that the conditions would be unfavorable for Allied aircraft. After much discussion, Eisenhower decided that the invasion should go ahead. Had Eisenhower postponed the invasion again, the next available period would be with the right conditions of tide, but without the desirable full moon, was 2 weeks later from 18 to 20th June. As it happened, during this period, the invaders would have encountered a major storm lasting 4 days between 19 and 22nd June that would have made the initial landings impossible. So he made a good call. Alright, now we're going to start getting into German defenses and preparations. Now on the right-hand side, you got this really neat photograph of German troops from the Indian Legion on the Atlantic Wall in France, 21st of March, 1944, with a MG-34. Thought that was pretty neat. Nazi Germany had at its disposal 50 divisions in France and the Low Countries, with another 18 stationed in Denmark and Norway. 15 divisions were in the process of formation in Germany, but there was no strategic reserve. The Calais, am I saying that correctly, Callum? Calais? The Calais region?
Calais.
Calais.
Yeah, you just don't have to say the S.
Gotcha. The Calais region was defended by the 15th Army under Colonel General Hans von Salmuth, and Normandy by the 7th Army commanded by Friedrich Dahlmann. Combat losses throughout the war, particularly on the Eastern Front, meant the Germans no longer had a pool of able young men from which to draw. German soldiers were now on the average 6 years older than their Allied counterparts. Many in the Normandy area were Eastern legions, conscripts, and volunteers from Turkestan, Russia, Mongolia, and elsewhere. Wehrmacht had provided them mainly with unreliable captured equipment. They lacked motorized transportation. Formations that arrived later, such as the 12th SS Panzer Division, the Hitler Youth, were for the most part younger and far better equipped and trained than the static troops stationed along the coast. Here on the right, you got German troops around St. Lo. Thought that was a pretty neat picture, and we'll get into that one a little bit later as well. But more about German defenses and preparations. The 1st SS Panzer Division, Adolf Hitler 9th, 11th, 19th, and 116th Panzer Divisions, alongside the 2nd SS Panzer Division, Das Reich, had only arrived in March to May of 1944 to France for extensive refit after being badly damaged during the Nibir Carpathian Offensive, which had taken over 45,827 troops, 363 tanks, assault guns, and self-propelled anti-tank guns out of France from December 43 to April 44. 7 of the 11 Panzer or Panzer Grenadier divisions stationed in France were still not fully operational or only partially mobile in early June 1944. Got a lot of battered units there. Moving on to the Atlantic Wall. Got this neat diagram showcasing the Atlantic Wall from 42 to 44, and have to say that is pretty impressive, the amount of defenses they were able to put up throughout the entire area. But
Well,
alarmed...
They weren't
go.
that good, though. Most of the Atlantic Wall, they used prisoners and, slave labor to build them. They were quite crafty, though, because they couldn't, with such a large force building stuff, you can't keep an eye on everyone. And there was still quite a lot of sabotage and subterfuge when they were building it. Like, a lot of the time, the concrete, they would mix the concrete in the wrong ratios, put in too much sand or something like that, and it would make it incredibly weak. So a lot of the Atlantic Wall wasn't as strong as you'd think it was, just because, you're using, 1 million people to build it. A lot of them hate you and don't want you to succeed. Yeah, they're going to do some fiddly stuff with all your stuff, with your materials. So a lot of the Atlantic Wall was pretty weak,
Now, Garrison and Callum, this is a question for you guys. So the way I understand it is that along the Atlantic Wall, most of it was fairly sparse. Is this correct? Like the actual fortifications themselves, there weren't too many of them?
Correct, it was pockets.
Yeah. It was
A lot of it was like recon outpost.
Yeah. It was mainly the heavily fortified would have been, possible landing areas. Harbors, beaches, stuff like that. But a lot around there is also just cliffs. So that's sort of like a natural barrier. Although, not that it stopped the Rangers, but...
I'm sure we'll discuss those in a bit, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, a lot of the Atlantic Wall, it's not just a solid wall that continues the entire way around.
Oh yeah, no. But the
I just
fact
like
that
how
they
it's
had
like
the
looking
entire...
at the map. I just like looking at the map. You got like Norway, Finland, all around. Then you got Sweden is just chilling, just like, don't mind me.
Right.
D-Day will occur in
small
Sweden. We
little
will invade Sweden and then invade Norway through them.
Go up and around. To talk more about the Atlantic Wall. Alarmed by the raids at Saint Nazaire and Dieppe in 1942, Hitler ordered the construction of fortifications all along the Atlantic coast, from Spain to Norway, in order to protect against any expected Allied invasion. He envisioned 15,000 emplacements manned by 300,000 troops, but due to shortages, particularly of concrete and manpower, most of the strong points were never built, as the expected site of the Allied invasion, Pas de Calais, Cals, whatever the fuck we said earlier, was heavily defended. In the Normandy area, the best fortifications were concentrated at the port facilities of Cherbourg and Saint-Malo. A report by Rundstedt to Hitler in October of 43 regarding the weak defenses in France led to the appointment of Rommel to oversee the construction of further fortifications along the expected invasion front, which stretched from the Netherlands to Cherbourg. Rommel was given command of the newly reformed German Army Group B, which included the 7th Army, the 15th Army, and the forces guarding the Netherlands. Nazi Germany's tangled command structure made it difficult for Rommel to achieve his task. He was not allowed to give orders to the Organization Taunt. I don't know what that is. What's that? That's their committee, wasn't it? For Western Europe?
I believe
Oh
so,
yeah,
yeah.
the organization Toad. Yeah.
Okay. Which was commanded by Armaments Minister Albert Speer. So in some places he had to assign soldiers to do construction work. Which, I mean, that right there alone tells you how bad the communication was with the entire German army. I mean, to be fair, it is kind of hard to coordinate and communicate with all sorts of different people all over a huge continent, but the Germans did not make it easy on themselves. Here on the right-hand side, we have beach obstacles at the Pas de Calais, April 18th, 1944. More about the Atlantic Wall. Rommel believed that the Normandy coast would be a possible landing point for the invasion, so he ordered the construction of extensive defensive works along that shore. In addition to concrete gun emplacements at strategic points along the coast, he ordered wooden stakes, metal tripods, mines, and large anti-tank obstacles to be placed on the beach to delay the approach of landing craft and to impede the movement of tanks. Expecting the Allies to land at high tide so the infantry would spend less time exposed on the beach, he ordered many of these obstacles to be placed at the high tide mark. Tangles of barbed wire, booby traps, and the removal of ground cover made the approach hazardous for infantry. On Rommel's order, the number of mines along the coast was tripled. Given the Allied air superiority, which was 4,029 Allied aircraft assigned to operations in Normandy, plus 5,514 aircraft assigned bombing and defense, versus the Luftwaffe's 570 planes stationed in France and the Low Countries. And booby traps, stakes known as Rommel's spargles, which is Rommel's asparagus, were also set up. I'm sorry.
Garrison, did we lose half of our crew? They're gone.
I was just checking. I was just.
Oh no! What happened?
I was just lost.
Yeah, I'm
I was
here.
just looking at Rommel's asparagus. I was just
Yeah.
checking it out.
I had to mute my mic.
I was
started
letting him
laughing
cook.
too much, so
Yeah, for real.
Rommel's asparagus.
Oh no, our glider hit one of Rommel's asparagus. Oh boys, don't bunch up. You might get caught behind one of Rommel's asparagus.
Is that a Rommel's asparagus in your pants, or are you just happy to see me?
Oh
almost
god.
Yeah,
surround myself
Fraulein,
with
would you like
Rommel's
to see my asparagus?
Alright.
Mine.
Alright. Booby trapped stakes, known as the Rommel asparagus, were set up in meadows and fields to deter airborne landings.
Please
proceed.
continue.
Yep. Oh, that was good. Next.
Too busy thinking about it.
Dennis, don't go thinking about Rommel's asparagus too much. You might get
He's
the
lost.
I
missus
can't help
jealous.
it, Callum. It's just who I am.
Oh god.
Tossing Rommel's salad.
Rommel, you got his asparagus. What's next? His lettuce.
Oh god.
Oh, God.
He's got the cherry tomatoes next. Alright. Now we're gonna move on to the invasion. They're on the right hand side. Got a pretty cool picture showcasing British pathfinders synchronizing their watches in front of an Armstrong Whitworth Callum, help!
Uh,
You know more about planes. I can't pronounce words tonight.
I'm pretty
Albemarle? What the fuck? Is
I
that a
think
real
it's
thing?
I think it's Abermarle.
Abel,
I think you don't really pronounce the L as much, like the first one.
I need to search that. I've never heard of that before.
It was used to actually, like, that's the thing. The I'm just going to call it the Abermarle. That was really important for distributing pathfinders, not just in Normandy, but basically all throughout the war. It was this incredibly tough aircraft that was really good for paradrops.
Well, the more you know. So to continue on, for the invasion, by May of 1944, 1.5 million American troops had arrived in the United Kingdom. That's a lot of fucking Yanks.
Jesus.
Most were housed in temporary camps on the southwest of England, ready to move across the English Channel to the western section of the landing zone. British and Canadian troops were billeted in accommodation further east, spread from Southampton to New Haven, and even on the East Coast for men who would be coming across in later waves. A complex system called movement control assured that the men and vehicles left on schedule from 20 departure points. That's a lot of points to depart this entire, like, just the logistics behind this is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Some men had to board their craft nearly a week before departure.
Oh,
That
God.
is wild. Yeah.
Can you imagine that on an LST?
Before it even left?
Yeah. They would have to.
Ugh.
We did that on deployment. We got on ship like 4 days early.
Come on, Garrison, hurry up and wait.
Pretty much. Some things never change.
You know, I've just searched up the Albemarle. That shit is a cool looking aircraft.
Maybe you can do an episode over it someday. Wink, wink.
Maybe
Ooh.
it looks like a cross between a Beaufort and a B-25. Yeah, it is cool. Anyway,
Yes, to continue on, the ships met at a rendezvous point nicknamed Piccadilly Circus, southeast of the Isle of Wight, to assemble into convoy lanes. I'm sorry, I'm skipping lines. To assemble into convoys to cross the channel. Minesweepers began clearing lanes on the evening of 5th June, and 1,000 bombers left before dawn to attack the coastal defenses. Some 1,200 aircraft departed England just before midnight to transport 3 airborne divisions to their drop zones behind enemy lines several hours before the beach landings. The American 82nd and 101st Airborne Divisions were assigned objectives on the Contini Peninsula west of Utah. The British 6th Airborne Division was assigned to capture intact the bridges over the Canal and River Orne. The Free French 4th SAS Battalion and 538 men were assigned objectives in Brittany, Operation Dingson, Operation Samwest. Some 132,000 men were transported by sea on D-Day, and a further 24,000 came by air. Preliminary naval bombardment commenced at 5:45 and continued until 6:25 from 5 battleships, 20 cruisers, 65 destroyers, and 2 monitors. Infantry began arriving on the beaches around 6:30. That's wild. A 5-minute delay from when the last rounds fired from those ships to when infantry hit the deck.
Yeah, that's insane.
All right, so now we'll get into all of the beaches. So the first one I'm going to go over is Utah. On the right-hand side, you got U.S. soldiers of the 8th Infantry Division, 4th Infantry Division advanced over the seawall at Utah. The craft bearing the U.S. 4th Infantry Division assaulting Utah were pushed by the current to a spot about 1,800 meters, which is 2,000 yards, south of their intended landing zone. The troops met light resistance, suffering fewer than 200 casualties. Their efforts to push inland fell short of their targets for the first day. They were able to advance about 4 miles, which is 6.4 kilometers. Wait, no. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 6.4 kilometers, making contact with the 101st Airborne Division. The airborne landings west of Utah were not very successful, as only 10% of the paratroopers landing in their drop zones, which is a horrible number. That's awful. But gathering the
It's
men together,
VDV numbers right there.
fuck, VDV is like what, fucking one airfield, and that was it. but let's see. Yeah, gathering the men together into fighting units was made difficult by a shortage of radios and by the terrain with its hedgerows, stone walls, and marshes. The 82nd Airborne Division captured its primary objective at St. Marigles and worked to protect the western flank. Its failure to capture the river crossing at the River Merderet resulted in a delay in sealing off the Cotentin Peninsula. The 101st Airborne Division helped protect the southern flank and captured the lock on the River Douve at La Broquette, but did not capture the assigned nearby bridges on the first day. Next.
All right.
Beaches. Pointe du Hoc. Here on the right-hand side, you have an aerial view of Pointe du Hoc during the latter month of June 1944. At Pointe du Hoc, the task for the 200 men of the 2nd Ranger Battalion, commanded by Lieutenant Colonel James Rubber, was to scale the 30-meter, 98-foot cliffs with ropes and ladders to destroy the gun batteries located there. While under fire from above, the men scaled the cliff, only to discover that the guns had already been withdrawn. The Rangers located the weapons unguarded but ready to use in an orchard about 550 meters, which is roughly 600 yards south of the point, and disabled them. Under attack, the men at the point became isolated, and some were captured. By dawn, at D-Day +1, 7 June, Rubber and only 90 men able to fight. Relief did not come until D-Day +2 on June 8th, when members of the 743rd Tank Battalion arrived. There's a fun mission on Call of Duty 2 about that. Let's see here. Oh yes, Beaches, Omaha. So the photograph on the right is called Into the Jaws of Death. Shows American troops, part of the U.S. 1st Infantry Division, leaving a Higgins boat on Omaha Beach. Omaha, the most heavily defended sector, was assigned to the U.S. 1st Infantry Division, supplemented by troops from the U.S. 29th Infantry Division. They faced the 352nd Infantry Division rather than the expected single regiment. Strong currents forced many landing craft east of their intended position or delayed them. Casualties were heavier than all the other landings combined, as the men were subjected to fire from the cliffs above. Problems clearing the beach of obstacles led to the beachmaster calling a halt to further landings until of all vehicles at 8:30. A group of destroyers arrived around this time to offer supporting artillery fire. Exit from Omaha was possible only via 5 gullies, and by late morning, barely 600 men had reached the higher ground. By noon, as the artillery fire took its toll and the Germans started to run out of ammunition, the Americans were able to clear some lanes on the beaches. They had also started clearing the draws. They had also started clearing the draws of enemy defenses so that vehicles can move off the beach. The tenacious beachhead was expanded over the following days, and the D-Day objectives were accomplished by D-Day +3, which was another slide over Omaha. The first components of the Mulberry harbors were brought across on D-Day +1, June 7th, and the structures were in use for unloading by mid-June. One was constructed by Arromanches by the British, and the other at Omaha by the Americans. Severe storms on June 19th interrupted the landing of supplies and destroyed the Omaha harbor. The repaired Arromanches harbor was able to receive around 6,000 tons of material daily and was in continuous use for the next 10 months. But most shipments were brought in over the beaches until the port of Cherbourg was cleared of mines and obstacles and obstructions on July 16th, 1944. I got a cool picture at the buildup of Omaha Beach, the 2nd Infantry Division troops and equipment moving inland towards St. Laurent Bin-sur-Mer on D-Day +1, June 7th, 1944.
That's a lot of people.
That is a lot of people.
Jesus. What was that?
Trying to clear my throat. Sipping my coffee.
That was a wonderful auditory experience there.
Thanks, Jack. Beaches, we got Gold. Men of the 47th Commando landing at Gold near La Riviere. At Gold, high winds made conditions difficult for landing craft, and the amphibious DD tanks either landed close to the shore or directly on the beach instead of further out as planned, which is convenient. Aerial attacks had failed to hit the La Hamel strong point, and its 75mm guns continued to do damage until 1600. On the western flank, the 1st Battalion, Hampshire Regiment, whatever the fuck, captured Arromanches, future site of Mulberry Bee, and contact was made on the eastern flank with the Canadian forces at Juno. Next.
Woo! Our slide.
Beaches, Juno. Hey, you can see there in the picture, there's dudes hopping out with fucking bicycles.
Just as prophesized, Jack. When the Canadians attack, will be environmentally friendly.
I bet they're e-bikes too.
Look at those wheels. Are those 29ers?
Oh my god!
With mountain bikes.
They got they got penny farthings, dude.
Oh, the tactical penny farthing.
Yeah, it folds up in the center.
Oh god.
Well, as you can see there, gentlemen, that is the 9th Canadian Infantry Brigade moving ashore at Nawite at Juno Beach after leaving the LCI, or ELS, whatever the fuck, on June 6, in 1944 with their environmentally friendly e-bikes.
I've never seen that picture before. That's awesome.
So many e-bikes. So many batteries that need to be charged up.
They were training along the shore in Oshawa.
Yeah, they were. They were just using the Lakeshore Trail.
They were just on the path, yeah.
Where's our tactical GO train?
God. Well, the landings of infantry at Juno were delayed because of rough seas, and the men arrived ahead of their supporting armor, suffering many casualties while disembarking.
Shit, that was in rough seas too. Oh my god.
Fuck yeah, it was. Most of the offshore bombardment had missed the German defenses. In spite of these difficulties, the Canadians quickly cleared the beach and created 2 exits to the villages above. Delays in taking Bin-sur-Mer led to congestion on the beach, but by nightfall, the fucking words, god damn it, contiguous, whatever the fuck, Juno and Gold beachheads had covered an area of 12 miles. There we go, 19 kilometers wide and 7 miles, 10 kilometers deep. One troop, it is for one day. That is actually pretty good. Better than what Russia did on the first day of the invasion.
Got 'em.
Right. Got the ass. All right. One troop of the 1st Hussar Tank Regiment was the only Allied unit to achieve its objectives on the first day of the invasion. Casualties at Juno were 961 men and e-bikes. So here on the right-hand side, you got some cool pictures showing the British Army fighting for Sword Beach. Sword Beach, 21 of 25 DD tanks succeeded in getting safely ashore to provide cover for the infantry who began disembarking.
Many?
Yeah, 21.
Those things are death traps. Have them sunk. How do they get that many onto the shore?
That's a good question. I have no idea.
Good job, Britain, I guess.
For real, they only lost 4 tanks. That's pretty good. But they quickly cleared the beach and created several exits for the tanks. In the windy conditions, the tide came in more quickly than expected, making maneuvering the armor difficult. The 2nd Battalion, King's chauffeur, is that chauffeur?
Shropshire.
Shropshire, thank you. I can't read. I'm American. Light infantry advanced on foot to within a few kilometers of Caen, but had to withdraw due to the lack of armor support. At 1600, the German 21st Panzer Division mounted a counterattack between Sword and Juno and nearly succeeded in reaching the coast. They met stiff resistance from the British 3rd Infantry Division and were soon recalled to assist in the area between Caen and Bayeux, however the fuck you say that.
By
Baya. And then here you got some cool pictures showcasing Normandy invasions of gold, Geno, and sword. And then the overall invasion. But if you want to go to the next slide, there's it goes into close-ups. Oh, I guess it doesn't. Well, fuck. My bad. Well, casualties. Allied casualties on the first day were at least 10,000 men, with 4,414 confirmed dead. The Germans lost 1,000 men. The Allied invasion plans had called for the capture of Carentan, St. Lo, Caen, and Bobikes, how the fuck you say that, on the first day, with all the beachheads other than Utah linked with a front line 10 to 16 kilometers, which is 6 to 10 miles, from the beaches. None of the objectives were achieved. The 5 bridgeheads were not connected until June 12th, by which time the Allies had a front running at 97 kilometers, which is 60 miles long, and 24 kilometers, which is 15 miles deep. Nearly 160,000 troops crossed the English Channel on June 6, and more than 2 million Allied troops were in France by the end of August. Caen, a major objective, was still in German hands at the end of D-Day and would not be completely captured until July 21st. There on the right, you got killed in action USG on the Normandy coast. You got guys that are chilling back. I believe that was Omaha. I think. But now we could go into the battlefields of Normandy. So, of course, before we go into this, there were multiple engagements moving from place to place in Normandy. A lot of bocage fighting, village fighting, things like that. Right now, we're only covering major battles. Of course, the entire campaign was a huge, it was a really important campaign, but we're just trying to hit the highlights here. So here on the right-hand side, you got operations in the Battle for Caen. So the fighting in the Caen area versus the 21st Panzer Division, the 12th SS Panzer Division Hitler Youth, and other units soon reached a stalemate. During Operation Perch, 30 Corps attempted to advance south towards Mont Pincon. Pincon, is that how you say that, Pincon? I don't know what that C means.
Pisson, I think.
Pisson. You're going to piss off the Germans. But soon abandoned the direct approach in favor of a pincer attack to encircle Caen. 30 Corps made a flanking move towards Tilly-sur-Seulles, toward Villers-Bocage, with part of the 7th Armored Division, while 1st Corps tried to pass Caen to the east. Excuse me. The attack by 1st Corps was quickly halted, and 30 Corps briefly captured Villers-Bocage. Advanced elements of the British forces were ambushed, initiating a day-long battle of Villers-Bocage and then the Battle of the Box. The British were forced to withdraw to Tilly-sur-Seulles. After a delay because of storms from 17 to 23rd June, Operation Epsom began on June 26, an attempt by 8 Corps to swing around and attack Caen from the southwest and establish a bridgehead south of Odon. Caen was a bloody mess.
It really was.
More about Caen. So here on the right-hand side, you got Allied armor during the battle for Caen. Am I saying that right? Caen. I've heard it pronounced Caen.
It's Caen. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Actually, funnily enough, that tank is actually Canadian. That's from, I believe, the Lord Strathcona's, or maybe it's from the RCD. I think it's actually from the RCDs. But yeah, that's a Canadian tank.
I thought that was a 4th Armored Division tank.
Is it?
I think so. I thought it was. I don't know.
We need to see the divisional flash, which I think unfortunately is covered up by a road wheel.
Hang on.
Yeah, it just says
see,
RC, but
I see RC.
You got
I'm like,
RC on the front. That's got to mean something, because that's not
Remote
American.
control.
Actually, he's not entirely off. I think I might be wrong. That might mean it's a radio command, because you can see all the radio antennas sticking out of it.
Oh yeah, that would make
good
sense.
point. Yeah, remote control.
It's the Tamir remote control tank.
Oh god. You got some rivet counter in the back of the building over there controlling it with a stupid ass controller.
Comically large controller.
Oh god.
I will say one cool thing with that Sherman is look at the driver's screen. He's got one of those cool windshields.
He does.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't blame the man. I would too, honestly, if I could. You see the little coax gunner's head sticking out?
He went to pimp my tank before he left.
Yeah, it's slightly lowered.
Aftermarket road wheels.
1-to-1 aftermarket. All right. Well, although the operation failed to take Caen, the Germans suffered many tank losses after committing every available Panzer unit to the operation. Fucking bad
Jesus.
mistake. Rundstedt was dismissed on the 1st of July and replaced by OB West by Field Marshal Gunther von Klug after remarking that the war was now lost. Damn.
How very prescient of him.
Imagine putting all of your tanks in one area and they just get fucking wiped. God, that's a noob move. Anyways, the northern suburbs of Caen were bombed on the evening of July 7th and then occupied north of the River Orne in Operation Charnwood on the 8th to 9th of July. Operation Atlantic and Operation Goodwood captured the rest of Caen and the high ground to the south from 18th to 21st of July, which made the time... What the fuck?
Callum's just starting his vibrator, don't worry.
Oh, that's right, that's right.
Oh, that's my compressor. My bad.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah, that's
Jack is
my
starting Callum's
vibrator.
vibrator.
Saying, come here, Cal, spread those legs. Oh, God.
I unmuted because I heard Goodwood, and I was gonna make. I was
Spreads
gonna.
the vibrator.
The vibrator brings along some good wood, I tell you what.
God.
All right, well, let's see here. Let me backtrack a little bit. God, that's a big run-on sentence. Operation Atlantic and Operation Goodwood captured the rest of Caen and the high ground to the south from 18th to 21st of July, by which time the city was nearly destroyed. Unfortunately, Hitler survived an assassinated attempt on 20th of July. Boo! Better be a better shot.
Skill issue. Skill issue.
Ah! Ah! All right.
Is that Panzer Shock Lad finally kicking in, Garrison?
No, he's just been sitting on the compressor.
Yeah, I finally climaxed. Took long enough. It's Cherbourg. I like the Continent Peninsula campaign.
He gets really happy when he sees peninsulas.
I do. They're so fun. I won't tell you what they look like. In the western part of the lodgment, the U.S. troops were to occupy the Continent Peninsula, especially Cherbourg, which would provide the Allies with a deep water harbor. The terrain behind Utah and Omaha was characterized by bocage with thorny hedgerows on embankments 3 to 4 feet, which is 0.91 to 1.2 meters high.
But what is that in Columbi?
Meters? What? What do you mean in Columbi?
Well, you know, the standard measurement from the MMP.
Oh,
How many Callums can we fit in this hedgerow? I'm going to cram Callums into it.
That's like, I don't know, about half, maybe. Just
Alright,
over
so
half.
Callum, bend over.
with a ditch on the other side, many areas were additionally protected by rifle pits and machine gun emplacements. Most of the roads were too narrow for tanks. The Germans had flooded the fields behind Utah with seawater for up to 2 miles, 3.2 kilometers from the coast. German forces on the peninsula included the 91st Infantry Division, the 243rd and 709th Static Infantry Divisions. So on the right-hand side here, you have American Armed Forces initially forced a corridor across the Continental Peninsula and then cleared it of German military resistance by the end of June. I love seeing... I don't know how many hours I've spent on Google Maps just street viewing this peninsula. It's so beautiful. I would live there. It's gorgeous. So, to continue on my climax here of Cherbourg, by D-Day +3, the Allied commanders realized that Cherbourg would not quickly be taken, and decided to cut off the peninsula to prevent any further reinforcements from being brought in. After failed attempts by the inexperienced 90th Infantry Division, Major General J. Lawton Collins, the 7th Corps commander, assigned the veteran 9th Infantry Division to the task. They reached the west coast of the continent. God damn it. Conteni on the 17th of June, cutting off Cherbourg. The 9th Division, joined by the 4th and 79th Infantry Divisions, took control of the peninsula in fierce fighting on the 19th of June. Cherbourg was captured on the 29th of June. By this time, the Germans had destroyed the port facilities, which were not brought back into full operation until September. And on the right-hand side there, you got U.S. troops moving through the port city of Cherbourg, fucking shit up. Then you got U.S. infantry during Operation Cobra next to a destroyed tank there on the right. I love Bukash's pictures. Alright, so this is the breakout from the beachheads. After securing territory in the Continental Peninsula south as far as St. Lo, the U.S. First Army launched Operation Cobra on the 25th of July and advanced further south to Avranches by the 1st of August. The British launched Operation Bluecoat, haha, funny because they were once redcoats, on the 30th of July to secure Vire and the high ground of Mont-Picon. Lieutenant General Patton's U.S. Third Army, activated on the 1st of August, quickly took most of Brittany and territory as far south as Lurie, while the First Army maintained pressure eastward towards Le Mans to protect their flank. By August 3rd, Patton and the Third Army were able to leave a small force in Brittany and drive eastward towards the main concentration of German forces south of Caen. Over Klug's objectives, the 4th of August, Hitler ordered a counteroffensive, which was nicknamed Operation Lucht, from Vire towards Avranches. Look at all those infantrymen. Destroyed
The only way a Stoke should exist.
Is Ezra still here with us?
I'll take that as a no, thank God, because he'd probably
God
have a small mental injury looking at that photo.
I had like 5 different pictures to choose, and I chose that one specifically so I could hear him rage.
No, the tornado already got him, dude.
Tornado? New Mexico has tornadoes now, what?
Oh shit! Well, I mean, it's the Bermuda Triangle. Like, they've got everything.
That's the other side of.
No.
Where did this guy go?
Did he go to the
had internet problems?
Did he?
Bro, he's American. He's not allowed to have internet problems.
I thought he also said he was going to the gym.
He did, but it wasn't supposed to be for a while. I guess he lied.
No, he's just he's still here, but he took so much pre-workout that he's like high as a kite.
Yeah.
That's Ezra right now.
He's ascending.
All right. Well, while 2nd Canadian Corps pushed south from Caen towards the Falaise Gap in Operation Totalize on the 8th of August, Bradley and Montgomery realized that there was an opportunity for the bulk of the German forces to be trapped in the gap. The Third Army continued to the encirclement from the south, reaching Alençon on August 11th. Although Hitler continued to insist that his forces should counterattack, Klug and his officers began planning a retreat eastward. Because they were smart, Hitler was not. The German forces were severely hampered by Hitler's insistence on making all major decisions himself, which left his forces without orders for periods as long as up to 24 hours, while information was sent back and forth to the Führer's residence at Oberschlitzberg in Bavaria. On the evening of August 12th, Patton asked Bradley if his forces could continue northward to close the gap and encircle the German forces. Bradley refused because Montgomery had already assigned the 1st Canadian Army to take the territory from the north. The Canadians met heavy resistance and captured Falaise on the 16th of August. The gap was closed on the 21st of August, trapping 50,000 German troops, but more than a third of the German 7th Army, with the remnants of the 9th and 11th Panther Divisions, had escaped to the east. All right. Continuing on, the breakout from the beaches on the right-hand side here, you have U.S. forces in Chambois during the Battle of the Falaise Pocket, also known as the Falaise Gap. Montgomery's decision-making regarding the Falaise Gap was criticized at the time by the American commanders, especially Patton, although Bradley was more sympathetic and believed Patton would not have been able to close the gap. The issue had been the subject of much discussion among historians, criticism being leveled at American, British, and Canadian forces.
Wow, so
Hitler-
everyone.
Pretty much. I mean, hey, hindsight's 2020, right? But we still don't have a fucking, no one can still get along on that shit. But we did the best we could in the situation we were given. Hitler relieved Klug of his command of OB West on the 15th of August and replaced him with Field Marshal Walter Model. Klug committed suicide. God damn, I forgot about that. Oh, fuck. Okay. Damn. Bro didn't even wait a whole week. He just fucking popped his top. All right. He committed suicide on the 19th of August after Hitler became aware of his involvement in the July 20th plot. Oh, that's right. Yeah, he was trying to kill Hitler. Rest in peace, my guy. An invasion of southern France, Operation Dragoon, was launched on 15th August. All right, here on the right-hand side, you got troops in Paris. The French resistance in Paris rose against the Germans on August 19th. Eisenhower initially wanted to bypass the city to pursue other targets, but amid reports that the citizens were going hungry and Hitler's stated intention to destroy it, de Gaulle insisted that it should be taken immediately. French forces of the 2nd Armored Division under General Philippe Leclerc arrived from the west on the 24th of August, while the U.S. 4th Infantry Division pressed up from the south. Scattered fighting continued throughout the night, and by morning of August 25th, Paris was liberated.
Who's in Paris?
The fucking Americans.
Oh,
also,
shit.
look at that top photo. You can see the M8 Scott. That's a very nice looking photo of that.
Yeah, color. That's probably original color, right?
Fine, maybe I'll have
yes.
to actually finish mine.
Do it. Do it.
I'm about to start mine.
Oh, I forgot you started yours.
Is
Yeah,
that
and I found out to me it didn't give you an interior. That was fun.
Oh, you're gonna have to do the same thing I did with my M5.
I have.
Hey, that'll be the same interior, actually.
It
Yeah.
will.
I have 2 of those M8 kits.
What, the 48
Oh.
scale one?
No, I got the 32nd scale one.
Oh,
35th. Sorry.
32nd.
weird
Uh,
scale.
It's weird though. I ended up with 2 of them. Yeah,
Well, make
completely
one
by
HIDF.
accident. Pardon?
Make one HIDF.
Actually, one of them's going to be European. The other one's going to be Tarawa.
Ooh.
Oh, yes.
Because what I'm going to
That's
do,
going to be awesome.
little sidetrack. You know how Floki did his Type 97 Tarawa?
Yeah.
Yes.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to get him to send a whole bunch of photos of one of the sides of it, and then I'm going to try and match my one to it to make it look like my M8 is next to a knocked out Type 97.
Well, that's nice. That's gonna look great.
Because then, if we ever do meet up, I'm going to be bringing it and see how well I did by pushing them together and see if I got it right.
You're gonna
That would be
own
nice.
his build. You're gonna be the death of him.
What's the movie about McDonald's where those 2 brothers have the McDonald's and that guy comes in and just steals it? That's going to be
The founder.
Floki.
Yes.
The founder.
The founder, yeah.
Founder moment.
All right. Well, operations continued in the British and Canadian sectors until the end of the month. On the 25th of August, the U.S. 2nd Armored Division fought its way into Elbeuf, making contact with British and Canadian armored divisions. The 2nd Canadian Infantry Division advanced into Fort de la Londe on the morning of August 27th. The area was strongly held. The 4th and 6th Canadian Brigades suffered many casualties over the course of 3 days as the Germans fought a delaying action in I got heartburn. Action in terrain well suited for defense. The Germans pulled back on the 29th of August, withdrawing over the Seine the next day. On the afternoon of August 30th, the 3rd Canadian Infantry Division crossed the Seine near Elbeuf and entered Rouen, however the fuck you say that, to a jubilant welcome. So, at the close of the campaign, here on the right-hand side, you got soldiers of the Highland Light Infantry of Canadians having breakfast in Béron, France on July 9th. I thought that was a pretty neat picture.
You can see all the spent Timmy's cups around them.
You can also see the lack of glass in that building behind.
Jack, were you there at the tactical Tim Hortons?
Yeah, I showed up with the Iltis. Did the tactical Timmy's run.
Yeah, he got there early on like July 7th or something. I was there.
They captured the airfield so the C-17 could land and offload the shipping container that contained all the coffee.
Yeah, no, it's actually the shipping container that has the Tim Hortons in it at the GO station in Oshawa.
Oh God!
Jesus Christ.
Did you know the Canadian Army actually does have a tactical Tim Hortons unit?
Yes.
No fucking way.
Yeah, they do. They were that thing was staffed by I think it was Signal Corps.
Oh my god. Was it out of a shipping container?
Yeah, it was brought by a C-17.
Oh shit. So all the ones that are supposed to be at Durham Go are veterans,
Surplus.
I guess.
They're surplus. Yeah,
they're
they've
surplus.
got the little poppy on their license plate.
Yeah, they've all they've all agreed to not show up to work. Have you ever seen that place open?
Like once. Actually, every time I go Wheels and Wings on my own, it is.
Really?
You just need to start coming with me, man.
I've never seen it open.
Well, you know what it is? They close at 3. That's why.
I've never seen him in the morning either.
Well, he just closed because he saw you were coming, so he didn't want you to be able to have anything nice.
Oh right, yeah. Tactical Timmy's run. Fair enough. Okay,
Sorry, Garrett,
proceed.
I have hijacked your slide.
Oh, I don't give a fuck. You kidding me? Shit. More commentary, the better. But coming to the close of the campaign, Eisenhower took direct command of all Allied ground forces on the 1st of September. Concerned about German counterattacks and the limited material arriving in France, he decided to continue operations on a broad front rather than attempting narrow thrust. The link-up of the Normandy forces with the Allied forces in southern France occurred on the 12th of September as part of the drive on the Siegfried Line. On September 17th, Montgomery launched Operation Market Garden, an unsuccessful attempt by Anglo-American airborne troops to capture bridges in the Netherlands to allow ground forces to cross the Rhine into Germany. Here on the right-hand side, you get a really dope picture of Canadian troops with the captured Nazi flag, El Ezra. More about the campaign close. The Normandy landings were the largest seaborne invasion in history, with nearly 5,000 landing craft and assault craft, 289 escort vessels, and 277 minesweepers. The opening of another front in Western Europe was a tremendous psychological blow for Germany's military, who feared a repetition of the two-front war of World War I. The Normandy landings also heralded the start of the race for Europe between the Soviet forces and the Western powers, which some historians consider to be the start of the Cold War. Victory in Normandy stemmed from several factors. German preparations along the Atlantic Wall were only partially finished. Shortly before D-Day, Rommel reported that the construction was only 18% complete in some areas, as resources were diverted elsewhere. The deceptions undertaken in Operation Fortitude were successful, leaving the Germans obliged to defend a huge stretch of coastline. The Allies achieved and maintained air superiority, which meant that the Germans were unable to make observations of the preparations underway in Britain and were unable to interfere via bomber attacks. Transport infrastructure in France was also severely disrupted by Allied bombers and the French resistance, making it difficult for the Germans to bring up reinforcements and supplies. Much of the opening artillery barrage was off-target or not concentrated enough to have an impact, but the specialized armor worked well except on Omaha, providing close artillery support for the troops as they disembarked onto the beaches. The indecisiveness and overly complicated command structure of the German High Command was also a factor in the Allies' success. Alright, so now we're going to move into the Normandy casualties. So we're going to start with the Allies. Here on the right-hand side, you have the Normandy American Cemetery and Memorial. It's a beautiful picture there with nice, clean, cemetery. From D-Day to August 21st, the Allies landed 2,052,299 men in northern France. The coast of the Normandy campaign was high for both sides. The cost of the Normandy campaign was high for both sides. Between the 6th of June and the end of August, the American army suffered 124,394 casualties, of whom 20,668 were killed and 10,128 were missing. Casualties within the 1st Canadian and 2nd British armies are placed at 83,045, 15,995 killed, 57,996 wounded, and 9,054 missing. Of these, Canadian losses amounted to 18,444, with 5,021 killed in action. 1 in 7 Canadian soldiers killed between 6 June and 11 June were killed after surrendering in a series of executions that would be named the Normandy Massacres. The Allied air forces, having flown 480,000 to 317 sorties in support of the invasion, lost 4,101 aircraft and 16,714 airmen, which 8,536 members of the USAAF and 8,178 flying under the command of the RAF. The Free French SAS paratroopers suffered 77 killed with 197 wounded and missing. Allied tank losses have been estimated at around 4,000, with losses split evenly between the American, British, and Canadian armies. Historians slightly differ on overall casualties during the campaign, with the lowest losses totaling 225,606 and the highest at 226,386.
That's just insane.
It's, that short amount of time in that huge area with all that going on, that is, and the amount of, what gets me is the amount of people that are missing. That just vanished. That is a lot of fucking people. Like, my old battalion in the Marine Corps at our peak was 1,400 people. Like, that's insane to have that times like 7 go missing, right? It's just baffling that many people can just disappear. I mean, part of, I don't think I mentioned it earlier, but during the Operation Cobra, the Allied did a daylight bombing to soften up German defenses, and 60% of the casualties taken during Operation Cobra were from Allied blue on blue.
Yeah, because they had no way of actually like sighting the bombs. Like they were bombing on a single axis, and because they had not properly like sighted the axis, so many of the bombs fell long or short,
which is really unfortunate. Really unfortunate. But now we're going to move on to the Axis casualties from Normandy. So here on the right hand side, I got a nice, beautiful picture of a destroyed German armor in Normandy. Looks like a Panzer IV, maybe, but or was
Panzer it's IV? Definitely a Tiger.
All right, fucking Russia. There are no exact figures regarding German losses in Normandy. Approximately 2,300 tanks and assault guns were committed to the battle, of which only 100 to 120 crossed the Seine at the end of the campaign. That is a horrible ratio. Holy shit. While German forces reported only 481 tanks destroyed between D-Day and the 21st or the 31st of July, research conducted by Operational Research Section from the 21st Army Group indicate that the Allies destroyed nearly 550 tanks in June and another 500 and between June and July and another 500 in August, for a total of 1,050 tanks destroyed, including 100 destroyed by aircraft. Luftwaffe losses amounted to 2,127 aircraft. By the end of the Normandy campaign, 55 German divisions, 42 infantry, and 13 panzer had been rendered combat ineffective. 7 of these were disbanded. By September, OB West had only 13 infantry divisions, 3 panzer divisions, and 2 panzer brigades rated as combat effective, which is just baffling. More about the Axis casualties. Here on the right-hand side, you got a nice cemetery in Normandy. for the Germans, which is kind of weird to me that they have that. But the Allied forces in northern France reported the capture of 47,000 Germans in June, 36,000 in July, and 150,000 in August, a total of 233,000 for the 3 months of Operation Overlord.
Jesus.
That is a huge number of guys being captured. Now, around 80,000 German soldiers are buried in Normandy, although this figure does include an unreported number of Germans who died prior to the battle and those who died in captivity after the end of the fighting. German forces in France reported losses of 158,930 men between D-Day and the 14th of August, just before the start of Operation Dragoon in southern France. In action at the Falaise Pocket, 50,000 men were lost, of whom 10,000 were killed and 40,000 captured. Sources vary on the total German casualties. Nicholas Zitterling notes that OB West figures for summer of 44 in the West, thus including in its scope Operation Dragoon in southern France, amounted to 289,000 the total, which is 23,019 killed, 67,060 wounded, and this is the baffling part: 198,616 missing. That's almost
not record any of
200,000
that?
men. Like, that's just how do
How is that
200,000 men go
possible,
missing?
dude?
Yeah,
How do
No
you lose 200,000 people?
I don't know. I mean, I could see if like you have like a company or a battalion of dudes in an area and you just get bombarded or whatever, and people get vaporized by bombs or whatnot, because that shit happens. Sure, you can't count them as dead unless you get confirmation, but there's no way that 200,000 men just vaporized. There's no way.
Well, I mean, with the RAF's tactics, it's not completely not completely out of the picture.
Fair.
Shit. Yeah,
Fair.
fair enough.
Well,
when that thousand bomber raid comes over, yep,
that's fair.
bit overkill for one peninsula, but okay.
Hey, we got our job done, didn't it? Well, the gentleman states that the record is generally reliable, but also that it might have underestimated losses in some places, such as Cherbourg. Zierling goes on to estimate specifically the German army casualties in Normandy region, specifically from June 6 to August, as 210,000. However, he also notes that, quote, the Germans most likely suffered further manpower losses when air or naval battles were overrun. Now we're going to move into the really sad part, which is the civilians. Here on the right-hand side, you have a very sombering picture of a British soldier escorting a elderly lady in Caen, July of 1944, and you can really see how destroyed that city is.
There was nothing left of it.
Yeah, look at that. That's awful.
I thought that was Dresden at first. Like, not that's not the subject, but that's the type of images you would see of something like Dresden.
Well, during the liberation of Normandy, between 13,632 and 19,890 French civilians were killed, and more were seriously wounded. In addition to those who died during the campaign, 11,000 to 19,000 Normans were estimated to have been killed during pre-invasion bombing. A total of 70,000 French civilians were killed throughout the course of the war.
Jesus Christ.
Landmines and unexploded ordnance continued to inflict casualties upon the Normandy population following the end of the campaign. And that is still a problem, I think, up to today in some spots.
You still have every so often they will have to blow up an unexploded mine.
That's going to be Ukraine for the next probably 100 years. That's so sad.
Yeah, good point. It doesn't help that they're trying to pour more weapons into Ukraine as well, because like those are just gonna get in the hands of like the Wagner group and
Well, think of this. Just what the butterfly mines are, right? The ones they drop from the air.
Those are
Yeah, yeah.
horrible.
Those
Yeah.
are so small. They're hard. Like you can detect them with like a metal detector and shit, but they're so small. They're hard to see, and they drop randomly. So, I mean, for crying out loud, who knows how many of those are going to be found in 50, 60, 70 years that are still active,
Oh, good point, dude.
The worst thing is that the Russians designed those to look like kids' toys.
That is
Right,
so
yeah.
fucked. Fucking Russians, man. Well, let's continue on.
That's for another episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna take this over to Callum. Thank you for putting up with my not the greatest reading skills. Been a rough couple of weeks for me, so this has been a nice break. I appreciate it.
You've definitely offended a lot of French people, I think, with
But that's okay. They're
pronunciation,
no
but
one
who
cares.
cares?
They're
my
French.
cock, I'm American.
We liberated you. Be grateful.
So, well, I figured, we've talked about, Normandy, various places and units and stuff like that. Well, we're all modelers, so I figured, we'll talk about references, inspirations, what it looks like, in depth, stuff like that. So, first up, we have the Normandy landscape. And the first thing that immediately pops to your mind, what is it?
Bocage.
Bocage.
Yeah. It was one of the things that Normandy was known for to make things really difficult was the bocage, where you have basically roads with big hedgerows on either side, so you can't see anything. It's great for ambushes. Tanks can't move around as
Man,
much.
thanks, France.
Yeah, bloody
It
France.
is literally a tacticianer's wet dream.
Yeah.
Mine.
If you're defending, if you're attacking, it's terrible.
Well, hell, even attacking, yes, it's horrible, but towards the middle of the campaign, they were finding some good tactics to take over certain areas.
Yeah. But there's been instances of, like, I know that M8 Scots apparently, because of the landscape and infantry could hide really well in it, a lot of times tanks got attacked by infantry when they're, the front line's been pushed back a lot further than you expect, and suddenly you got this squad coming out at you. I know M8 Scots had difficulty with that because, open top, behind enemy line, supposedly they're behind their lines, and there's a lot of times that tanks got attacked when they thought they were safe just because infantry are hidden within the landscape. So it's also close quarters. Can't see anything.
That's what the 50's for.
Pardon?
That's what the 50's for.
But so this is basically what it looks like. It's a very unique landscape compared to, like, World War II has got some unique landscapes, and this is definitely one of them, of the bocage.
Real quick, I would love to see somebody make a diorama of an M8 Scott being ambushed by, like if like the crew's out there playing cards or something with like a makeshift table because they're behind lines, and then here comes this fucking kraut squad about to ambush them. That would be spectacular. Dennis, please.
Well,
Me?
actually, Garrison, you say that. So I'm part of 2 group builds for D-Day. I'm going to be making 2 builds for it. You know that diorama Paul did of the 2-sided?
Yes.
I'm going to be doing that, but with a bocage hedgerow in the middle. On one side's going to be my M8 Scott that's going to have the tanker close quarters battle guys around it, and on the other side is going to be my Stug 4 with all the
Oh shit! Yeah.
with all the scale color stuff on it. So yeah, I'm going to do a 2-sided diorama.
Fucking right on.
Yeah, that's going to look pretty cool. So yeah,
yeah, it's gonna look pretty cool. You kidding me? Shit.
I've just got to figure out how you did your hedgerows, Garrison.
I will. We can have a discussion about that.
Sounds good. But
Well, here are some pictures I posted of the hedgerows. I've got a whole folder. God damn, I can't fucking speak. A whole folder on my computer of Normandy. Like I said, I'm low key obsessed with the Normandy campaign. Like, look at that. That's like, ugh.
But yeah, so if you want to do Normandy, this is sort of your classic Normandy diorama, hedgerows everywhere. Yeah. It's great for modeling, I gotta say. It's really good.
It's wonderful for modeling.
If you haven't yet, I'm gonna do a little self promotion real quick, fellas. If you haven't yet, go to my YouTube channel. On completed dioramas playlist, I have a Normandy Bocage diorama that I made last year. Really fun doing that, and right now I'm working on another Bocage diorama, so stay tuned for that. Super fun. I want to make so many more of these, but it costs so much money to do it.
Yeah, you have to pay a fortune for foliage.
Yeah, that's like the worst part.
Okay, what's next? And of course, you have the Point de Hoc, or Point de Ho, depends on your standpoint, because the Americans translate it as du Hoc, but originally it's supposed to be de Ho, as in Hoe.
That's the most
hoes are
American
here.
thing.
Yeah, I spent the worst storm in Daho.
But so the cliffs of Point de Hoc is well, you got the LCA there at the bottom. It is difficult to find a model of an LCA. There is not enough. There's not many of them because, of course, they were modified to have rocket-propelled grappling hooks to send up ropes and ladders and stuff like that on top of the cliffs. So
That is some James Bond level stuff.
like the Call of Duty 2
Rangers,
mission
Rangers.
where you watch
Yes.
that is yeah.
Ah,
So of course, if you're going to model de Hoc, they are the Rangers. That is one thing that the Rangers are well known for, is that little engagement there. So this is good for dioramas. It was heavily bombed. You got bombed out bunkers, pillboxes, gun emplacements. Even though make sure there's no guns in them because they weren't there.
yep.
But it's very. You can see it's just rubble, craters, but very, very cool. You can get really creative with this, with the sort of destroyed concrete look.
I made a Point du Hoc diorama a long time ago, and making the empty gun emplacement and the bomb craters was super fun.
Yeah, so this is just again, this is just purely inspiration for anyone who wants to get in on this.
Whoa.
So we have some vehicles. First up, we have what was known as the Rhino tanks. So of course, with the bocage and trying to get through hedgerows and all of that, they needed a way to. They couldn't afford to go around them because there were very few openings to get tanks through.
And those were covered by AT guns.
Yeah. So one thing they decided to do was they wanted to try and push through, but even tanks were struggling with this task. What they decided was the beaches had a whole bunch of tank traps, the hedgehog steel tank traps. What they decided to do on the beaches, when they dismantled them, as you can see in the middle photo, they cut them up, turned them into these blade and cutters, and put them onto the front of the tank. So you can see the two main designs they went for. The top one, you got this sort of plow type thing, and the bottom one, you got the more sort of cutting type. And these were sharpened. They were sharpened so they could cut through hedgerows as they push through, push them down, all of that. So this was very unique. So originally, for the first few days, these were made on site, on the beaches, on the beachheads, stuff like that. However, after reports came back of they were working, well, there is some debate on if they worked or not, depending on, like you get some historians who go, oh, they didn't really do anything, and then you got people who are there and going, yeah, they did the job.
It doesn't matter. They look cool as fuck.
Yeah, that as well. I mean, you got a tank with spikes coming towards you, you'd run.
Think of all the weathering opportunities.
Yeah,
Right.
but so the first few days they were made on the beaches, but when the reports came back, they started installing these in England and in the States. They became standard kit for their tanks. So I thought that was a pretty cool detail.
Oh, it definitely is.
So yeah, Rhino tanks make very cool modeling subjects. What's next?
Let's see.
Yes.
Of course,
Holy
as we talked
shit.
about, we have the DD tanks, or the duplex drive. The reason they're called this is they have two propellers on the back. and that is to propel them forward. And of course, their flotation device is a canvas screen. And there is not enough money in the world to get me on one of these when it's in the water, because a lot sank.
I'd do it.
It's the Titanic submarine simulator.
Yeah. So,
Oh, yes.
God.
They got the Logitech controller in there.
Oh dear. But yeah, so you actually have two DD tanks. The one that everyone knows is the Sherman. You know, that's your DD tank. But they actually initially wanted to use Valentine tanks as DD tanks.
They did.
And I've seen one in real life actually at Bovington. It's pretty cool. Someone restored one.
Yeah, keep flexing that, Callum. Just keep flexing the fact you've been to Bovington.
Oh, mate, I'm getting so much out of this. Yeah. So when I was at Bovington at Tank
Eat my
where I
balls.
met the chieftain, by the way.
I hate him. I hate this guy. This sheep grabbing man.
You're making
Anyway.
them cry, Callum. Keep it up.
I know. But they initially wanted to use Valentine's first. However, you can probably see the problem straight away if you compare the Sherman to the Valentine. Anyone guess what it is?
It's fuck. I mean, it sucks.
No, the Valentine was actually a very good tank.
I know.
The main thing
I
is
didn't
the
know it was
Valentine
like that.
turret is up front, whereas the Sherman is in the middle, and the Valentine barrel sticks out in front. So the only way you can have the screen up is the turret had to be rotated 180 degrees to face backwards, which when you're landing
Reverse
on
gear.
when you're landing on a beach, the minute you land and drop the screen, you still got to turn the turret around, whereas in reality you want to drop the screen and immediately start firing. So it also caused some stability issues, whereas the Sherman is very, it's centerline stable. The Valentine is a little bit front heavy because of the turret, but so initially they were going to use Valentines and Shermans. They just went with Sherman. The Valentine got dropped, even though they made a lot of them. They didn't really use them, but
They did train with them though.
yeah, they were used for training, but they never. I don't think they used them on the beach landings.
No, they didn't.
But yeah, duplex drive. You have the canvas up, down, whatever. It looks cool. Up next, also a very Normandy campaign feature is the Hobart's funny tanks. A whole bunch of tanks have been converted into very, very specific roles, and some of them we've covered. The Churchill ones mainly. So, of course, you have the Churchill Crocodile here. You've got the Churchill Avery and the Bobbin. The other three here, we have the Sherman with the Crab Flail, the mine flail, which is just basically a big frame with a drum on it that rotates at high speed and a whole bunch of chains. And what this does is hits the ground in front of it, sets off any mines. Usually you had about 3 or 4 detonations before you had to change the chains out because they've been blown off. This was also very good for hedgerows, long grass, anything like that, for flushing the enemy out as well. So,
And it turned Krauts into mincemeat.
so they definitely didn't want to get in front of that. The bottom center, that is a center. It's a center that's been converted into a bulldozer. It looks awesome. I think IGB released one in 72nd
They
recently.
did, yeah. Covered it during
Really?
the Crusader episode.
Yeah. So
That's awesome.
it looks amazing, doesn't it? And then on the top right there, you have an M3 Grant that's been converted into a CDL, or a Canal Defense Light, which is, the name itself was actually a way to keep it secret. Like, you hear defense light, it's purely defensive work, but what it is you got fake guns on it, except for a machine gun, and you got a very thin slit in the front of the turret there, and that was mainly just to protect the light. But what it did was just shines this bright light over everyone, basically turns night into daylight, whilst somewhat blinding the Germans at the same time, because it's a direct light at them. But this was so it would be good for across water, open spaces, stuff like that. So these are some of the funnies. They are very unique to Normandy, but they were used later on, of course, because you've got them.
Normandy is very unique. Please love my campaign.
But yeah, so these are some of the things you do. If you want, research into the funny tanks, because they are very varied and very cool. And of course, we have a few things for the Germans because they were there. They didn't do a
That's the
lot,
whole
but they were
reason we
there.
were
They were there.
there.
So these are some of the uniform schemes that they use. So of course you got the Fallschirmjäger in their very cool multi-camo jackets. The tankers, of course, wore their standard black, unless and I learned this from Christian, unless they are artillery, then they did not wear black. So yeah, didn't know that. I thought all tankers wore black uniforms, but no, artillerymen didn't. Then, of course, you have the Wehrmacht in their field grey, the SS in a field grey jacket, but a multicam dot pants, and you even had Luftwaffe personnel. And their colour scheme is very interesting. Their camo jackets are sort of a red and dark yellow and blue pants. So that's quite an interesting scheme, that. And the next slide, Garrison's got some more.
Yes, these are German troops outside of St. Lo just before, I believe it was just before or right after Operation Cobra started.
That's a beautiful picture.
It is. It's one of the best colorized photos from the Normandy campaign I've ever seen.
Yeah, so of course you have at least 5 different camos right here. Not a fan of the one on the left. The one on the far right, though, do like.
I like them all.
They just look like
Alrighty,
they'll be
Ezra.
a bastard to paint.
Hey, I'm
Oh,
just
yeah.
saying, I will say the Germans, they had really good camo. They did. You cannot deny it.
Known to have the sauce.
Yeah,
Yes, they had the drip.
that's one thing the Allies didn't do, is they didn't make their tanks colourful enough, except for in the desert.
Yeah, well, they were too busy winning the war to be paying their tanks.
Hey, if you're going to win a war, do it in bloody style, If you're going to lose a war, do it in style. Just do it all in style. Alright? Takes 5
The
minutes.
Germans sure did.
Speaking of style,
And then we have the tanks. So German tanks, because I was going to do a scheme show color schemes for Allied, but that's literally just olive drab. That's it. So However, Normandy schemes for the Germans. So they were typically the tanks got delivered to the troops in Dunkelgelb, and then they were told, okay, you have olive grün and Rotbraun, or Brun, however you pronounce it, and basically go nuts. They kind of feel a bit jealous about that. They were given a blank canvas of a tank with paint and just gone, you need a camouflage scheme. Have fun.
Thus, scale modeling was born.
Yeah, the OG scale models.
Then they went out to weather them.
Yeah. So one thing I'm showing here, this will probably annoy a few people. When you say Dunkelgelb, there are variations of Dunkelgelb, olive grün, Rotbraun, which is red brown. There are different shades of it. All depends on where it's come from. I mean, even between modelers, we can't figure out which one's the real one. And even then, there was standardization, but then if you try and use a color photo as a reference, it all depends on how well it was colorized. If it was colorized, if it's going from a black and white to a colorized, or whether it was a color film, which is pretty rare in Second World War. How long it had been out in the field? A lot of colors fade quite a bit, so that can change the tone a bit. Yeah, depends on if it's muddy or not. Yeah, there's all these. It's not like you can definitively say this is exactly this, and this by this photo, because there's variations all the time.
Long story short, stop rivet counting.
So I've just got a few examples of what the camo schemes looked like and what the colors sort of looked like. Yeah, very cool.
This episode is brought to you by Autoloader Decals. Have you wandered round the shelves of your local hobby store and found that perfect model kit? Great tooling, fun to build, and look, you remember seeing the subject. Perhaps it was a truck in the ubiquitous white UN paint scheme in the newspaper, or maybe it was a Sherman tank from your local armour unit. Everything is lining up for a fantastic new project, one with a more interesting connection to yourself, instead of a project derived from a history book. Then you open the kit, and there are none of those specific markings to be found. Waterslide decals really put the final touch on a model, and unfortunately for the model maker, most kit manufacturers won't put too much time into designing decals that produce a finished model in anything but its most stereotypical form. That's why Autoloader Decals exists. It is their sincere hope that you'll be able to find as much enjoyment using these special water slides as they have. Autoloader Decal products are primarily focused on Canadian subjects, but in general, if you're looking for markings that represent vehicles from lesser known parts of modern history, chances are you might just be able to find something worth trying. The waterslide decals are printed through an inkjet printer and sealed with a high quality varnish to ensure their strength on the model. Unlike most other water slides, these decals only need to be submerged for a few seconds and can be placed right onto the model. They are incredibly tough and won't yellow over time. For an added benefit, decals intended for 1 to 35 scale are treated with a special varnish that gives a subtle, painted on look that's both in scale and more realistic than other brands' offerings. All the products currently in production are listed in the store page. If you have a custom design you would like to order, the best way of making this order is to send an email through the contact page. Generally, the cost of a custom order will be 40 to 50% higher than any products that are in stock to account for labour. Also, as a special deal, if you are ordering a set of custom decals and you mention the Micro Machines podcast, you'll receive a free exclusive MMP Pinju decal with your order. So next time you're looking to build a specific or unique vehicle, look towards Autoloader Decals. Just go to www.autoloadermodels.ca for all your waterslide decal needs. And now, back to the show.
Alrighty.
Nice.
Let's go.
Alright,
Let's do
speed
it.
run time. Hobby
favorite.
Speed run. You all know what's going on. We got a panda
Pinju.
with the press kit on. Let's go.
Let's go. And first up, something I am so excited for.
Screw off. You don't have time to praise it. What is it?
It's Italy, and they're making an Italian aircraft. It is the Machi MC202 Folgore in 30-second scale, highly detailed, full engine, full interiors. It comes with 8 schemes, photo etch. Also, I think they're 3D decals for the cockpit.
Yeah, they're doing
And
that
the
now.
camo scheme, you actually get decals for the green squiggle line thingies because we all
That's
know
so tedious.
we all know how much of a bitch that is to try and airbrush yourself, especially for this camouflage for Italian aircraft. They were straight edge, so yeah,
Oh,
and also
okay,
bugger
yeah.
mask that off. But I'm just showing. So you got the decal sheets, you got the photo etch sheets, CAD renderings of what the engine bays and stuff looks like. So you have it open or closed. Some of the ideas for the camouflage. It's an Italian aircraft in 30 seconds. I want it so badly.
For artillery, that's wild.
It looks
Italian being good?
yeah.
Yeah,
Nightmarish.
they're
Moving
stepping
on.
up their game recently.
Nightmare. Horrifying.
All right.
Next
Next up from TACOM.
Helicopter.
An AH-64E Apache Guardian. So it's got a full cockpit and interior and
It's got a full what?
Full,
Ah.
you say?
it's got a full suck my dick.
Hey,
Anyway.
yo,
Hey!
whip it out.
Yeah, come on, mate, big man. Prove it.
As long as you turn the compressor on.
I got you, I got you!
This has to go on to Patreon. Oh no!
He was ready for that.
Anyway, so on this kit, you can assemble it as blade folded or not. And on the right-hand side, you can see the parts that turn it from a standard AH-64 into the E Guardian variant. So, yeah, TACOM been releasing a shit ton of Apaches lately.
You know what? I have watched some people build it though, and I gotta be real with you. It doesn't look that good. It looks kind of
Really?
rushed.
Really?
Like the detail's great, but the actual parts fit is kind of bad. It
Not
doesn't
quite
fit.
up to par.
Not even close.
Ugh,
Considering the amount of these they've been releasing.
I know.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I won't say I'm surprised. I'm just disappointed.
It's
Technically.
really bad.
Anyway,
Oh,
up next we
this is
have.
interesting.
So this is special hobby. No, I can't read.
Yeah, that's special hobby. The
Special
Czech
hobby.
dudes.
Pardon?
The Czech dudes.
Yeah. They're releasing 4 new kits in 72nd scale. We have a Cobra in US or Turkish Army. We have a Mirage F1, a Supermarine Spitfire. No, Seafire.
Mm.
And a Swedish Saab JA-21. Sweden's
That's
very
sick.
first jet aircraft.
That's very
Fighter.
cool.
Yeah, that's neat.
That comes with either gun pods or rockets, and you can see the number of rockets lined up under the fuselage.
Ooh.
The special
Does
hobby
anybody
any
else
actually
make
good.
a kit of that?
I don't think so.
No, that's the first one.
The special hobby any actually like is it good? Is it like Hobby Boss?
I'll put it this way. So their shtick is they make aircraft that nobody else has made. So
like
they're
it.
the only game in town for it. So basically, they're short run kits. They are injection molded, which is nice. You don't have to mess with resin. They generally have really good detail because they'll give you a lot of like photo etch and resin for things like the cockpit, right? But again, short run kit. They're pretty good as far as they go, but still obviously be ready, you know?
Well, like they're
Yeah.
modern kits, right? They're not.
Yeah,
They're not
they're not
reboxes or anything.
They're not
yeah.
bad at all.
We can go ahead and skip this one.
Yeah, actually,
Up
nobody
next.
cares. Nope. Nope, nobody cares.
Whoa.
Ooh.
Come on, go back.
Ugh.
Come
Google
on,
Blitz was kind of sick.
come on, Cobba. Let's go.
I'm grabbing my left arrow key. Actually, I can't find.
What do you mean
Dennis, did you lose your mouse? What the fuck?
No, I'm painting right now, so like I've got paint in front of my keyboard.
Okay,
we
so
don't want to do.
from Border Models, they're copying Tamiya with their Jagdpanzer Force
This is shameless, man.
slash 70A. So yeah, what do you do?
Yeah.
No one
fucking-
cares.
No.
Next up, though, they have
Ugh.
a
That's kinda
Kugelblitz
cool.
Flak
That's
Panzer
kinda cool.
4. Hey, I'll take this. It looks cool. It's got twin
That's
30
kind of
mils.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
The box art is neat too.
it is a good box art. I like how they're using it as anti-personnel, not anti-aircraft.
That's a
War
nice
crimes.
touch.
When you
But
get
of
hit
course-
by that dollar store 30mm.
Yeah. So of course the Kugelblitz basically it's built on the chassis of a Panzer IV, but it's mounted with a very fast rotating turret and it's armed with twin Mark 103 Doppelflak 30mm cannons. With they have very cool compensators or whatever on the barrels. They look cool.
Hmm.
Next up,
Okay,
tack
that's-
on with their turrets again. So they have the HMS Hood Mark 1 15/42 gun turret. This is the B. They released the A. This is the B. I found out something. So you know how when we looked at the A, we were wondering what the thing on top of the turret is?
You mean the Sea-Wiz?
Yeah. I found out what those are. Those
they?
are aerial mines.
What?
Unguided rocket aerial mines. They did it. They weren't that good. Go
I
figure.
wouldn't expect them to be.
Count. What is the motivation of this? Like, are these for like what? What?
Anti-aircraft. What these
What?
did, right, was they fired up like a hedgehog, like mine deploy, right? And then when they got to the end of their tether, they were all tethered. They deployed a parachute, and they were all calculated to have a rate of drop. And what it did was the aircraft would fly and hook onto one of these cables, which would then draw the mine to the aircraft and then detonate.
Fiendish. Absolutely fiendish.
They just
God.
It is
So
literally
they
a
put
Sea-Wiz. We
balloons
were
in the
right. It was-
sky.
It's literally like the 1942 version of the Sea Ram.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So
No, this is just a helium balloon.
So Churchill, of course, was a big fan of anything new, and they were watching a demonstration of one of these being used. However, the rocket misfired. It kind of spun around the place, and then the line for it got tangled up in the rigging and antenna of the battleship it was on. And kind of like, luckily it was inert, but
So naturally, they
Fine, it's
used
fine.
it.
It'll buff out.
No.
Don't worry about it.
they I think only a few ships had them and they didn't use them. But there's something cool that I found out.
Maybe if they had used their CRAM system to destroy the incoming shells, the hood wouldn't have been sunk.
What's next? So I put in this one just for the Normandy campaign, Garrison. So this is a Screaming Eagles D-Day diorama kit. As of who was the guys that shaved their heads? That was the 82nd, wasn't it?
101st.
101st.
The 101st, yeah.
So you got a figure for 101st Airborne Trooper, and they're both 101st, with a section of a Willys Jeep. This is one of those dioramas that you have a vehicle that's kind of cut off just so you can focus on the figures.
Vignette.
Whatever. But I thought I'd include this in because it does look very cool, and yeah.
Oh, it definitely does.
Especially with the mohawk.
It's a nice vignette.
Oh, that's sick.
Up next, by Thunder Model, in 35th scale, we have a German Bergpanzer Hetzer with a 2cm flak late that's been put onto it. So this is basically, there's a few of them were made. I did find photos of them. And it's basically you get a Hetzer, take the top off, and then mount a 20cm flak into it. So this comes, you can get the standard version, or you can get the limited bonus edition boxing, and that comes in with fully modeled interior for the transmission. You get more photo etch parts, and just more details to add on if you get the limited bonus edition.
Why does it look so small in the bottom right corner?
Because it's showing. Well, it's a Hetzer. Hetzers aren't big.
Yeah, but the one guy is like 3 times the size.
Those are kids. And perspective. That's in the background. He's in the foreground.
They're standing. Okay.
Then they're standing on an actual Hetzer as well.
I didn't notice that.
Do we need to have a chat about 3D and perspective or something, Jack?
Yes, please. Yeah, that would be helpful.
But yeah, it looks cool.
Oh,
this from Border again. Border's releasing a lot of stuff.
This
is
sick.
This is an IJA 28cm howitzer from the Russo-Japanese War of 1905. This is a giant cannon that was breech loading, and get this, Dennis, it was brought back into service during the Second World War.
Yes.
It was a siege weapon that was turned into coastal defense, but around 1945, because they were, sort of just decommissioned and put out the way, they were brought back into service in 1945 to defend Tokyo Bay and whatnot. So, yeah, it's a very old school siege cannon, howitzer. It comes with that full base, full turning trolley and everything, so it looks amazing.
That's awesome.
And it's also the Russo-Japanese War isn't something that's covered a lot, so it's good to have something for it. I mean, it's 1905. That's cool.
Wait, hear me out.
Yeah.
HIDF.
Yes.
Loaded on the back of yeah.
The M8. It's just girthier.
Yeah, but yeah, this is full. It's 1905, so it's all riveted and cast, and it looks amazing.
Callum.
Pardon?
Yeah, that's sick.
And it's even got an elevation.
I was gonna say it's got a approach.
It has
Look at that.
It has a crane on it too.
Yeah, that's because those shells weigh something like 50 kilos or something like that, or plus. They're big.
Thick.
Coming from Magic Factory, we have the M. Shorad Bradley, the M2A3 and 4 IFV in 35th scale. These are 3-in-1 kits. So you have the 3 options. Dennis, what are the options? You know more about this than me.
You get the option of building the standard M3A4, which is basically the next-gen version of the Bradley, which you can see here. I believe that's going to be... So the green and the tan options to the right, that's the M3A4. And then you have the ability to build the M. Shorad, which is a short-range air defense version of the Bradley. that one basically, sum it up, it's got an extremely sensitive infrared seeker, kind of like the one on an AIM-9, and it also has millimeter band radar for identifying and engaging air targets. You can build it with either the Hellfire missiles or the Stinger missiles.
I
Yeah.
might have to go into modern armor for this one. I know
Yeah,
you're
it's-
going to get
it's
one, aren't
pretty- Oh, I'm going to get like 5.
you? Well, it's 3 in 1. You got to build all 3, don't you?
Exactly,
Oh, I
Bob.
didn't realize this was 35th.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I needed
Oh,
one.
wow.
Yeah,
Ukraine
just for like
24.
reference, hold on, let me John Madden this. How much time do we have left? We got 9 minutes. We got time. So, these bulges here on the turret, that's the millimeter band radar.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Bulges.
And lastly, from IBG, which this will make someone on our server very, very excited.
I can hear him from over here.
Oh yeah, they are releasing in 35th as well a Chevrolet C60L ambulance, and I think that just made Don on the server just wet himself.
They got Joseph Stalin driving.
Apparently, yeah. But yeah, if you're a fan of the Chevrolets, the C60s, yeah, this is one for you. Because I know Don is currently struggling to build one of these. What's the kit he's got? Something terrible, isn't it?
It looks
it's
neat.
the,
I thought it looked
mirror
alright.
models.
He's got mirror models, yeah.
C60.
Yeah. So IBG was a lot better. And that is all from Model News. Garrison?
Yo. Yes. Sorry, Peyton. So, along with, or the whole reason we went into the Normandy campaign today was because we are currently running a Normandy campaign group build. If you would like to find out more information about this group build, join the recreational or the competition portion, go to our Discord. We have an entire category section dedicated to it. But this one, you can submit for prizes. We have a first and second place. First place is your choice of 3D printed World War II tracks and paint set for either the Allies or Axis from our sponsor, Jeff at Scale Colors. And then the second place, you get the newer 1 to 35th scale Tamiya German late war infantry kit.
Sounds good.
And then just for fun, for shits and gigs, we are doing the Horizon Island Defense Force group filled. That's running until October. The Normandy group build is running for, until August 30th. So come on, join the group builds, have fun. We have a lot of submissions already. Or a lot of people working on stuff already. So come join the fun.
Yeah.
And Dennis, you go
Yes.
for this one.
The Micro Machines podcast, on that note, is sponsored by Scale Colors and Scale Colors 3D. If you are interested in getting some non-toxic, water-based, they're water-based, airbrushing paints that are very accurate to the real things used historically, why don't you go on to scalecolors.com. That is scalecolors.com, and check out Jeff's amazing selection of naval, aircraft, and armor paints. As well, if you're interested, check out his section of 3D printed tank tracks. They are individual link, super easy to put together, and very detailed. Again, thanks so much for your sponsorship, Jeff, and thank you so much to our Patreon supporters. If you want to help keep the lights on here at the Micro Machines podcast and get access to exclusive content like special episodes and bloopers, go to our Patreon, which is in the link in the description of this video. And why don't you think about tossing us a couple bucks? It goes to help Pinju the Panda, and it helps us keep the lights on. And that, gentlemen, was the Micro Machines podcast with exactly
It sure
5
was.
minutes remaining.
Perfect.
We did it.
We did
Yay.
it,
We
boys.
did it.
We did it.
We did it. We solved the Normandy problem.
The Normandy problem.
We personally intervened.
All right. Shall we
Alrighty.
close this out?
Yes. Well, if you've gotten to this point, thank you so much. You have been watching and listening to the Micro Machines podcast. Please stay tuned and catch us next week. Awesome. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye. Good night. Sweet dreams.
Good night. We all love you.
Mwah.
Mm.
Mwah.